Sweet. Okay, everyone. Welcome to another weekly grow. Today is going to be super exciting because it's both me and Dakota talking about this topic. For those of you who haven't been here before, Grow is Get Ready with Entrepreneurs. It is a gathering of like-minded entrepreneurs interested in building their brand through networking and sharing of ideas and best practices. As much as there will be a focus on topics related to marketing, our goal is to take a holistic approach to building a sustainable business to support our people, planet, and profits. And if you haven't connected with Laura or myself yet, please do. All of our social contact is here, as well as if you wanted to follow along with Acorn themselves, top right-hand corner QR code. And then if you haven't already, please join our Facebook group. It's really cool, a lot of good conversations. We post updates and links and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Good. Well, welcome. Thank you for having me back. For those of you who weren't with us last week, I did a little presentation about how to scale your company. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Dakota Lamar. I started my entrepreneurial career as a freelance copywriter, and then it has naturally grown into what I call scale consulting. And it as I said, happened very naturally because in my relationships with clients and partners, I kind of came to this realization that with everything that I wrote, whether it was outward facing content like website copy, marketing content, video scripts, things like that, or whether it was internal facing documents like business plans, marketing plans, operation plans, talent development plans, I was always focused on helping my companies and my clients accomplish more while exerting less effort. If you want to hear me talk more about that, definitely check out the recording from last week. And now that I've joined the Acorn team, I help both on the copywriting side, but primarily I work with clients to help you optimize internal processes, your operations, your talent acquisition plans, so that you are prepared for the growth that comes along with successful marketing. We find that it can be challenging or daunting sometimes to invest in marketing if you're not ready to service a lot of new customers. So I help you get prepared internally for your marketing to be a smashing success. On that topic, websites fall within my scope of work because I firmly believe that your website is the single most impactful public facing piece of your brand. And if it is not properly built and maintained, if it is properly built and maintained, it will help you both attract and serve your ideal customers. So let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about your websites and how to conduct a website audit. And in this training, we're going to help you determine just how well your website is working for you, help you identify areas for improvements that you can make to your website starting today to make sure that it is actually helping you convert visitors into customers or leads instead of just being this like black hole where a prospect's attention goes to die, because that is the opposite of what we want. So by the end of this session, you will get a deeper understanding of the role that your website plays in your overall marketing strategy and habits. And as always, a big emphasis on the word habits here. You will assess the effectiveness of your current website in helping you reach your marketing and business goals. We will show you how to complete a website self-assessment using our audit tool that we've created for you. Which if they don't have it, can we post that in the chat? Those documents. So you can look at those and follow along with us. And then you will also get a recording of this presentation because there's some questions on these audit tools that you're going to have to spend some time with, and you're going to have to go a little bit more in depth with than we will be able to do on just this presentation today. Want to quickly touch on who this presentation is not for, because we find that's very important. This presentation is not for you. This training, I should say, is not for you if marketing is not a priority for you at all, and if you don't care about your website or think that it is a critical part of your marketing. But if that's not you and you want the outcomes that we have above, stay on, because over the next 25 minutes or so, we're going to examine your website's design, functionality, messaging, most importantly, all from the perspective of your customers and prospective customers. And then you'll leave this training with a clear action plan to enhance your website's impact and its ability to, as I said, convert visitors into paying customers, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Raise your hand if you have a website, but you are not sure if it is working for you. Let us know if that's an experience that you are dealing with, struggling with. Okay, I'm seeing some hearts, some hands up. Totally natural. So myself and the team here at Acorn, obviously we're a little bit biased, but we believe that marketing must always be a priority. Maybe not full-time like it is for us, but for at least a few hours each week. So if you have that self-assessment tool.
Yes, I'm just getting Laura to put it in the chat.
I can see that Laura's posted the self-assessment tool and the target audience survey. So if you guys want to go in and actually click on the self-assessment tool, because we can follow along together. You can see Emily's created a beautiful document for you, and you can actually fill these in as we go. So let's forge on ahead. We're at the point right now where let's look at your priorities, and using the self-assessment tool, rank yourself on these first two statements. The first one being on a 1 through 7 scale, where 7 is the highest. How much of a priority is marketing for you and your business right now? So, answer that question, be honest with yourself. And then the next question is where things start to get really interesting. So rank yourself on that next question, which is how much of a priority would marketing be tomorrow if you saw a drastic increase in sales overnight? And drastic means something different to everybody. It could be 2 new clients, 10, 100. So you pick the number that is sufficiently drastic enough. But if you essentially doubled in size overnight, how much of a priority would marketing be tomorrow? And the reason that we ask it this way is because we actually believe that your ability to succeed in marketing and growing your business has a lot less to do with how you rank either one of those statements individually. It's more to do with how little difference there is between the two. And if you were here last week for the session about scale, you'll remember I talked about the cycle of getting new customers and then delivering the services, and how a lot of companies in the early stages are focused on one, and then they shift their focus to the other, and then they shift back. The difference in ranking between these two statements shows where you are in that cycle usually. So if there's a big difference, you're probably trapped in that cycle. Whereas if there's not very big a difference, then you have probably found a way to both, balance the growth of your customer acquisition and the growth of your service delivery at the same time. So moving on from that, your website is the cornerstone of your online presence and a core component of each customer and prospective customer's experience with your brand. And frankly, it might not be doing its job very well right now. Which leads us to the question, what is your website's job, right? Ultimately, it is to convert visitors into customers or leads. It's to take people from whatever traffic source that you're using to attract them, whether it's social media, content, ads, media relations and interviews, cold calling, affiliate relationships, whatever you're doing to go out into the world and share yourself. And then ultimately, a prospect is going to visit your website at some stage of the journey. And if your website has to captivate them to the point where they want to either give you money on the spot right then and there, or at least want to start a conversation with you that could lead to them giving you money, obviously in exchange for the value that you provide. So, like any other area of the business, you have to have clearly defined goals for your website so that you can then measure its effectiveness, right? You have to draw a bullseye so that you know what success looks like, so that you're not just in the dark, right? So, rank yourself on this self assessment tool on the next two statements, which are I have clearly defined goals for my website, and I am confident that my website is performing on me based on those goals. And that will give us a benchmark to at least start the conversation with. So as you're ranking yourself on there, and be as, critical and harsh as you need to be, I'm going to pass it over to Emily because she's going to talk a little bit about website design.
Yes, thank you. As much as, everything Dakota talked about too, design does play an important role, especially in the audit process. And if everybody has come to some of the past website design stuff that I have done, I did talk a lot about website design, some things that make it user friendly, how to properly optimize your website. This one is specifically for your website audit itself. So how are we going to design a user-friendly website? So, or you're going to take a look at your website, thinking about yourself. So is your website design functional? And I know that was one of the questions in Dakota's sheets there. And then does your website meet the standard does your website meet basic accessibility standards? So design of a website serves as its foundation, determining how users perceive and interact with your brand. Ignoring design aspects can compromise your site's efficiency, engagement, and profitability. So there's 7 reasons that I've pulled together. I mean, there's so many, but I've picked 7 reasons why design is important. The first one is first impression matters. When you land on a website, if it resonates with you, if it's professional, if it fits the aesthetic that your audience wants, they're going to pay more attention. If the color and the design doesn't fit, then they're most likely not going to stick around. Mobile responsiveness, is your website mobile friendly? Does it work on your computer? Does it work on a desktop? Does it work on an iPad? And does it work on a phone? In today's world, it has to work on everything. Your loading speed. And I've talked so much about this in the past. Making sure that your website actually loads quickly. I mean, you can't do a lot about someone's internet speed, but you can help them as much as you can. And ensuring that, all the pages load quickly, all your videos load quickly, your images, it is crucial for how long people stay on your page for. SEO and visibility, proper design techniques and practices can actually enhance your website's search engine optimization, making you actually rank higher, especially with organic traffic. Usability and navigation. You want to make sure, like I've said, you want to have a clear navigation structure. If you have certain things you want people to find, like can it easily be found? Do they have to click 7 buttons to get to one location? Or is it easily displayed for them to find? This will enhance their overall experience, which is priority. Trust and credibility. A modern, secure, and professional design fosters trust, which can significantly influence users' decisions, especially in e-commerce. And that is really important, because I'm not going to buy from a website, or I'm not going to book a call with a website where I don't trust, or it has 0 credibility. And then conversion rate. Strategic design elements such as a clear call to action button and easily accessible forms play a direct role in influencing users to take desired action. If you like signing up for purchasing or any other engagements. And then I'm going to pass it back over to Dakota on this one.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Um, so I want to touch on, because we've created this self-assessment tool for you, right? And that's really important to critically evaluate your website yourself. That's an important first step. But you need to validate your hypotheses and assumptions by asking people within your target audience to rate your website across these criteria that we're sharing. That's way more important and relevant because it's ultimately about them and their experience. It really doesn't matter if you think that your website is great if your clients or your potential clients can't make any sense of it. So we're going to share the links to all of these resources at the end again. And the language is a little bit different on the audience survey tool that we've created for you, but you'll see how it's more them focused, but they're the same questions essentially as on the self-assessment tool, just worded to be from their perspective. Also, Stephanie, I saw your message. I'm going to explain what functionality means in just a second, so not to worry. But the reason I bring up that the website is all about them and the user and their perspective, and the reason we created this audience survey piece is because if the right person comes to your website and they don't instantly connect with your brand, see their story and your story, and then get caught up in some sort of journey, like a funnel is probably a term you've heard a lot, that leads them to either a sale or an inquiry, then something is wrong. That means the messaging, the navigation, the functionality, and the accessibility of the website may not be, or they may be standing in the way of the right person converting from a website customer, a visitor, into a customer or a lead. And that can be very frustrating when you're out there doing other marketing activity to draw people to your website and not have them convert into a customer or a meeting. You essentially don't want, on the flip side, you don't want the wrong people to resonate with your website and your brand, because you don't want to have a bunch of tire kickers or freebie seekers to fill up your inbox or your calendar. You really don't want people outside your target audience to relate to your brand and decide that they want to do business with you. You actually want your website to repel these people, because as an entrepreneur, you need to guard your time. And this ultimately comes down to messaging. So, a website that consistently captivates the attention of your ideal people and repels everyone else is doing its job. And so we will define that as a website that is optimized. So you can actually, I think the order's a little off on the self-assessment tool, but that's okay. Rank yourself. There's one on page 4 that says optimization. So rank yourself based on that definition on how optimized your website is. So, how well it captivates the attention of ideal clients and then repels everybody else. So as you're ranking yourself on that, again, the reason I bring this up is because if your website is not doing its job, if it is not optimized, then you are wasting precious marketing time and effort and probably money. If you're spending all the time and money that it takes to go out into the world and draw your ideal clients to you, your target audience to you, only to bring them to a destination that does not do justice to your brand and your story and the value that you provide, then you are wasting effort. And if that's you right now, that's okay, because now we're going to look at how to fix it. So let's look at, before we start looking at what good websites do and what they look like and how to assess and measure the effectiveness of your website, let's start by looking at the traits of a bad website, because then we can just focus on doing the opposite. So here are some red flags or traits of a bad website. A bad website is all about you. And unfortunately, this happens very often, right? We see websites that ramble on about the company and their services and their founders and how great they are. And realistically, you wouldn't want to hang out with a person like that in real life, right? Someone who only talks about themselves all the time. So why would we expect someone to want to spend time on your website if it's all about you? Obviously, you do have to talk about yourself a little bit, talk about your services, your value, your history. As a general rule, I like to stick to the 80-20 rule. So every time you use the word me, you should use the word you 4 times. So let's take another quick pause here, use this self-assessment tool and rank yourself on your messaging and that statement there, which is my messaging is all about them. And if your website is them focused, give yourself a 7. If it's all about you focused, give yourself a 1, or anywhere in between. Also, traits of a bad website is red flags, confusing or difficult to navigate. And Stephanie, this should answer your question. So it should be very, oh, sorry, yours was about functionality, but we'll get to that. Navigation means that wherever someone enters your website, it should be very easy for them, if they are a member of your target audience, to understand where they need to go on your website to access the information that they need to either to help them make a decision, which could be either to get in touch with you, to become a customer, or to even get the information that will help them decide whether they want to get in touch with you or become a customer. So again, using a self-assessment tool, rank yourself on that next statement under navigation. My website is easy to navigate.
Dakota, if I can mention something on that as well. And everybody who has come to any of my past website design sessions, we've talked about that. It's like when somebody lands on your website, I compare it a lot to a billboard that you're driving by. So if you're driving by a billboard, you can't stop. You got cars behind you. You can't stop. You have like maybe 3 seconds to take a look at that billboard and gather all the information that you need. So when someone lands on your website right away, are you telling them what problem you are solving and if this website is for them? And then when it's like, oh yeah, like I know, like I'm supposed to be here. Now can they take that next step to get you to solve their problem? And if it's difficult for them, they're going to move on to the next. They've passed that billboard. There's more coming up. So it's really taking a look at that navigation. The navigation in the website world is kind of like that, really that top bar where you have like all of your tabs. So like your home, about, your contact services. But navigating when we're talking about this is the entire thing. It's like, can that customer land on your website and effectively navigate to your end goal?
Yeah. That's great. I've actually never heard that billboard analogy before. That's great.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Yeah. So so that's great. That's helping me think about my own website too. Yeah. So and now, Stephanie, we'll get to your question about functionality. And really, functionality is very simple. Obviously, bad websites have a lot of functionality issues. That would be things like buttons that don't work, dead links. When it says click here to learn more and you click there and nothing happens, that's obviously very frustrating. And it seems small, but it is enough to make a prospective customer leave your website and never come back. So rank yourself on that one. My website is highly functional. And on the low end, if you're giving yourself a 1, that means your website is full of broken links, dead ends, just things that don't work. And then obviously 7 is highly functional. It just, everything works seamlessly. And then the last sort of red flag for websites is accessibility requirements. Now, some people are familiar with this, some people aren't, but there are like government mandated accessibility requirements that you have to have for your website to make your website accessible to people with physical or situational disabilities. So, this is super important. And use the self-assessment tool to rank yourself on that statement. My website meets accessibility requirements. And the reason we put number one as I don't know what these are is that some people may not even be aware that there are certain standards that they have to meet for people with accessibility barriers. And then some of you may know this already and have a fully accessible website. So rank yourself on that one.
Yeah, I think with accessibility too, and I know I've done a couple of sessions on accessibility. The two biggest ones that I notice when going through people's websites is one, color, is not understanding that if you create a color palette, people with that who are colorblind might not be able to see your color palette effectively. So if you have text that's one color layered over a background that's another color, like, can they read that? Like, does that actually work? And another thing is people having images with text on it. It's like, that's not scannable, that's not readable. So if someone is using a website, like a website reader, in most cases, that reader will not pick up the text that's written on an image because they only see it as an image. And then it's, especially for scalability, it's not functionable. So those are the two big things that I've noticed in the past.
Yeah, accessibility is definitely one of those things that it's there's a lot to know, and you guys probably don't want to become experts in it, which is why you work with a great team who's is highly educated in this stuff. So yeah, again, these are some of the red flags of a website. Let's turn to a cheerier note and talk about good websites instead of just bad websites the whole time. So first and foremost, a good website is all about them. You have to craft everything so that when an ideal client comes to your website, so someone who is a perfect fit to be your customer, right? They have a problem that you can solve, they have an urgent desire to solve that problem, and they have the money to pay you. You want that person to be immediately captivated, drawn in, absorbed by your website experience. And I always remind people here that your website is not an opportunity for you to tell someone how great you are. It is an opportunity for you to connect with the other person, to start a discussion about whether or not you're a good fit to work together. And that only happens by focusing the messaging and the copy to be all about them. Which usually begs the question, how do you do that? How do you actually craft that copy to be all about them? Really, it comes back to your ability to conduct audience research. So if you want to learn about the fears and the challenges and the desires of your target audience, and even more importantly, the language that they use to describe those things, you need to go and ask them directly. And that's also another big part of why we created the audience research tool. So this is where we start to get to the point in the self-assessment tool where you're going to have to take this offline and really spend some time thinking about it. But this is where you fill in the section under target audience. Who are the members of your ideal target audience? What are their pains, their challenges, and their desires? Now, once you have that figured out, and so this is a lot of people focus on sharing the products and services that they have to offer first on their website, right? Whereas I find that if you spend more time digging into or showcasing your understanding of the target audience, their, like I said, fears, challenges, and desires, and then talk about how your products and services help solve those, that is a way more productive way to use the limited time that you have with a website visitor, because attention spans are short in today's day and age, right? So you want to make the most of that brief opportunity to connect with people. So once, and you can see on this self-assessment tool that once you have your target audiences defined, then you can turn your attention towards the value that your services offer to those target audiences and really outline how each of your services or products addresses the fears, challenges, and desires of your target audiences. These are the questions that you have to spend a lot of time with after this session, really getting thoughtful, really asking them to be a part of the conversation with you as well. But you got the framework here on the self-assessment tool. Another huge thing that I find really valuable on websites is when people are able to communicate their mission, vision, and values for their company in a very customer-centric way. So people want to know what you stand for as a company and the world that you're trying to create and your core values, but in a way that communicates to them how your work is going to impact their lives. So this all ties into point number one, right? It has to be all about them. But again, you can use the self-assessment tool to rank yourself on how well you're communicating your mission, vision, values, and you can see that we've structured it so that we incorporate both. You may not have those clearly defined, and that's okay. You may have them clearly defined, but they're not that well communicated, or they're communicated, but they're not customer centric, all the way to number 7, which is where you want to be, where they are clearly communicated in a very customer centric way. Now onto brand, which is definitely not my area of expertise, but thankfully we have an expert in the room here. But your website must reflect your brand and inspire the emotional reaction that you hope to inspire in your audience. This means things like your color scheme, fonts, your graphics, photo and video content, and your copy all work together to instantly create a lasting impression of trust. Things are communicated through color, through design, that are subconscious, that have a huge impact on a visitor's experience and their impression of your brand and how much they trust you and want to work with you. So we've ranked it on here on the self-assessment tool, where very similar to the last one, you can essentially rank yourself all the way from like, I don't know what you're talking about, all the way to, I know for a fact that my brand is instantly building trust because I'm using all these things to my advantage. Am I missing anything on that, Emily?
No, and I think too, all of this goes back to your first point. It's all about them. So if you have designed a brand that you like, it's like, okay, great, I'm glad you like it, but are you your target audience? For example, if you love pink and the bright colors, but you are building this super corporate website designed for people that don't resonate with those colors, it's not going to connect with your audience. And I don't think people always realize that color has such a huge impact. For example, if you are a company who's working with children, you might want to use very bright colors, fun, friendly, welcoming. But if you are a corporate company, let's say working with like finances, you might want to use more like stronger colors, like blues and like dark greens, maybe even like some reds. But when you are designing your brand, it is about them. It is not about you. So yeah, that's what I got to say about that one.
Good advice for marketing in general, but yes.
Yeah, right.
So, and we're getting near the end, guys, and thanks for holding on. This is a very there's a lot to talk about with this topic. We were going to get to questions very soon. Renee, you kind of touched on analytics. I want to share my take on analytics, which is basically your website must be producing data that you can use to improve your marketing. And we've all heard of website analytics. We have varying degrees of understanding of what that actually means. To me, website analytics are simply the data produced by your website that you can use to optimize your marketing. And here's the thing, it's almost like searching for a needle in a haystack, right? your analytics tools can provide so much data. It comes down to what data do you use to actually take action and improve your marketing. There are things like website traffic patterns, so where your traffic is coming from geographically, whether it's backlinks and referrals from other websites. You want to look at maybe what pages are the most popular, how long they're staying on pages, the journey they take, where they enter your website and then where they go afterwards. And then the goals that you have and conversion ratios for funnel pages will tell you essentially how effectively your sales pages close sales or book appointments for you. You have to kind of come up with your own goals and analytics that you need to be paying attention to. We can definitely suggest some tools that'll help you with that stuff, but as a general rule, here are a few things that I find you do want to pay attention to. So if your ratio of website visitors to new leads or customers is low, then either your messaging is off on your website or you're attracting the wrong people to your website in the first place. But either way, if that ratio of visitors to customers or leads is low, that requires more attention. Another one is if you're consistently getting inquiries from the wrong people who aren't a good fit to be your target audience, never will be a good fit to be a customer, then your messaging is off somewhere, possibly on your website, possibly earlier than your website. Again, something to dig into. And if you are not getting traffic to your website at all, then your earlier stage marketing efforts aren't working. And either you're just not putting in enough effort in the first place to get people to your website, or you may be putting in the effort, but your messaging may be off in your earlier stage content, whether that's social media content, ads, or whatever else you're doing. So you can rank yourself on your data and analytics. I hope that helps make things a little bit clearer in terms of what your data should be doing for you, what your website analytics should be doing for you. And finally, we're coming to the last bit here. As with anything, and now that you have all this information about what your website should and shouldn't be, and you understand your website shortcomings and which are also the opportunities that you have for improvement, it's time to set some SMART goals for your website, for your marketing in general. I think you guys have done a SMART goal setting workshop in the past. If you're unfamiliar, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. It is a proven framework for setting goals that actually works. But yeah, it's time to set some SMART goals. Like I said, especially these last few pages of the self-assessment tool, you're going to need to spend some time with it. And that's okay, right? If you completed the assessment and you don't really like your results, that's okay. Just means you're going to have to invest some semi-regular effort into your website for a little bit. Use this audit repeatedly and the target audience survey. I can't stress enough how important it is to get information and feedback from the end users. But use it every couple months, maybe a couple times a month, until your website analytics start to align with your goals. Once you do have an optimized website, as I said before, a website that is doing its job, converting visitors into customers or leads, then you may be able to give a little bit less attention to your website, but you still need to do a website audit at least once or twice a year, because even if you create the perfect website, and I'm using quotes here, but even if you create the perfect website, market conditions change, economic conditions change, the wants and needs of your customers change, and you need to be checking in regularly in an ever-changing environment in order to make sure that your website is still doing its job for you, paying attention to your website analytics and regularly conducting audience research, which frankly is just good advice for marketing in your business in general. That is definitely not just isolated to your website. So I'm gonna stop talking finally. Um, let's talk about next steps a little bit. We wanted to create all the resources that you needed to assess your website yourself. So we've got this target audience survey, which again, cannot stress enough the importance of using that. Your website audit self-assessment tool, which is the piece that you have been following along with this whole time. And this is Emily's website design worksheet and checklist, which is a tool she created before that is way more design focused, and really in depth.
Yeah, so this, for those of you who have been following along, the website design worksheet and checklist was something that we've created for some of our other website design sessions. This one is very specific to design, like it is very design oriented and is also a checklist. Like, you really should be doing either one before you launch a website and two during an audit. There also is sections in here to take a look at like your audience and stuff like that, but it's design oriented, which is it's a pretty intense booklet. So that sheet is available in the Grow portal, or this QR code will take you over to where you can download it.